Hi, I'm Teresa Chang.
Hi, I'm Felicia Grant Cummings.
Hi, I'm Kim Johnson with Moms Navigating Autism.
It's February and CSE meetings are already underway. And one thing I want to say is that everybody needs to attend these meetings in person, because I know either in person, I think there's still a lot of them are on Zoom. I think that seems to be the preferable way of going is through Zoom now. But attend those meetings. Some people don't want to go and they don't go. So then all decisions for their child is being made by the school, but you should go and find out how your child's doing, what's best for your child. If your child is in middle school, transition should be coming in by law. Once you exit out of middle school, your child will be heading to high school, and you should have some sort of transition plan. Are they college bound? Are they going to go to trade school? Are they not going? Like all these things fall into play, and it should be reflected in the curriculum as they go to school. So I think that everybody needs to get involved, and your child will also be expected to attend CSE meetings. Now, my son never really wanted to go to the meetings, so he always trusted that I would do what's best for him. I didn't push him because if he didn't want to go, he didn't want to go, and I figured that if he was ready to do it, he would do it. I never said you had to go. At one point in one of his schools, he told me in the morning just to go to the CSE meeting. He didn't want to have any part of it. But I noticed that the school brought him into the meeting, and I knew that he was feeling uncomfortable. So at the meeting, he was on the phone. They were on the phone, and I said, do you want to be at this meeting? I said to my son, do you want to be at this meeting? He said, no, I told you this morning, I wanted you to go. And they were like, no, but you have to. And he was like, no, my mom will take care of it. I want her to do this. And so, and then he said goodbye, and he walked out with his aide. I will have to say that if you are at a adversarial point with your school district, it's best not to bring your child into it. Some school districts tend to try to talk your child into things that you wouldn't agree to. So that's what I think people should be aware of, but attend those meetings. If your child's going to college, remember, you should know that there's a certain amount of diplomas that are out there. There's, between the Regents diploma, the general diploma, the certificates, there's all these things that go into play once they get into high school. So if your child's going to be getting a Regents diploma, he's got to be entering Regents classes.
Yes.
Now, the curriculum has to reflect that. He can't go into high school saying that I don't want to take Regents classes, and then at the last minute decide I want a Regents diploma. Because I actually do know somebody who did that, and it wasn't possible for them because they hadn't been taking the Regents classes from the beginning. Sometimes it is, if you're in a sophomore and entering sophomore year and you decide you want a Regents diploma, well, you could, between summer school or whatever, you can go back but you can fit it into your schedule, those extra classes, so you can take the Regents at the end of the year. But you do need to take the classes, and you need to have the time for them. So
I just wanted to add on the point that you made about the child or the student being a part of their CSE meeting. I found it very helpful for the administration and the people who work with her to hear her voice about the things, that the decisions that were being made or were on the table, for her. Right. I thought it was really important for them to hear her voice, but her also to have the exercise of that she's speaking up for herself and advocating for herself. She's learned it pretty well, actually. to be able to do that, which it doesn't come easy for some students, but I do think that it was definitely worth her being a part of, these meetings, so that she could, well, number one, see how the meeting is run, see what is being discussed, and, hearing the input from the professionals that work with her, and whether she feels like the input was accurate or not,
Right.
um,
Right. Right.
and then she could also make suggestions, which I thought was good, suggestions for programming for herself the next year.
Mhm.
She would say, well, what about this? Or I want to maybe try this, next year. Is that possible? And then that's where, then I would dig in, with the, well, this is what she stated. This is what, if you have it available, then, let's try to get her there. Let's try to get her in it.
Yeah. Then there's the children who won't be getting a diploma, but they'll be getting a CDOS, which, like I said, you have to put your child on some sort of path. Now, for those of you whose children are in and out of district placement, I always advise parents to try to get them back into district if they're in an out of district placement, alternative placement. But if it's not possible, it's not possible. But my suggestion is to try to bring them back, because school districts offer more than some of the out of district placements. If your child is college bound, they're going to be looking at other things besides their academics. I mean, the academics, I'd say, is maybe 95% of it, but they also look at, whether they're on sports, whether they're, student council, other things. And most of that is, run through the district. And by the time a child gets back from an out of district placement, they probably won't have time to be a part of this.
Yes.
Unless they are in an out of district program in another school district, then they have access to all of the sports and the, everything that is in your school district is in their school district, and they will have access to it. But if they're in an alternative placement in a program where they don't have sports teams and they don't have clubs and they don't have any of that, I suggest that you bring them back into district if possible. Sometimes it's not possible, but if it's possible, then that's my suggestion. Some kids, yes, don't let yourself be fooled. You can get OT, PT, and speech in high school. My child did it up until 11th grade, and the only reason he did not get it, after 11th grade or up until 10th grade, he did not get it in 11th grade, or was because he rejected it himself. He didn't want it anymore.
Okay.
So once they make that decision, you really can't force them to go, because they won't end up going. Trust me, it'll be a waste of money.
It's not going to be, it's not going to be productive.
Yeah, it's not going to be productive, and it'll be a waste of money for the district. So, when they start doing that, that's it. Either get it for him elsewhere, but it doesn't make sense. The other thing is, if you're planning on sending your child out of district, remind you, I know we've covered this in another episode. You send out packets. It's, you want to do this sooner rather than later, because programs do fill up, and the school districts will mostly, they like to send to both these programs, and that's fine. And you will go and visit those programs. You will come back, and if you don't like the program, you feel it's too restrictive, whatever, you come back, you send them an email, you put it in writing within 24 hours and tell them the program was too restrictive. The program, it was not, you didn't feel that it was right for them. And then, but you do have the right to tell the school, I'd like programs sent to these other programs. Now, mind you,
packets.
You do want packets sent to.
Now, what's consistent in the packet? What is it's
usually
like an abbreviated file of your child.
Okay, your packet consists of usually your triennial, you know, that packet you get with your triennial, which is your social, emotional, your academics, PT, OT, speech, any of that. If they
All
have
the
that,
evaluations and
all the
testing.
everything that gets sent there, they get the cover letter on it, sent out. And then the programs will get in, they'll say, we have room, or this child seems like a good fit. I think we want to interview this child more. And then they will, you know, or we don't have room, and they'll send a rejection letter. All right. Now, there is, and don't get me wrong, people, if some programs have you on a blackball list, they will say this. They're not supposed to, but they do. They turn around and they say, oh no, don't take this child, or don't take that child, which is
Wait,
wrong.
who potentially is saying this? The district too?
But sometimes with some districts, it is your CSE chair, because they don't want to pay the money, but in some cases, BOCES has done it. BOCES had said, oh, because they want the child, they want the money, they want the child to go there. And they'll be the only one accepting that child, so there's no other choice. So, I mean, it's this little thing that goes on behind closed doors. So now, so I had one parent who this happened to, and she had a relative that worked at the placement that they sent them to. And they told the parent that who said this, and that's how it got back to them.
Wow.
And that's how I found out what happened. So in any event, parents, you have the right to say, like, say for instance, your neighboring district has a program. You have the right to say to them, please send a packet to that district. I mean, there are alternative placements in BOCES programs, and those are the least expensive for the districts because they get money back. All right. So there's a BOCES program, but some BOCES programs are in schools, and those are okay because your child will benefit from everything that school district has to provide, as long as that program is in their school. But then there's BOCES programs that are in their own campus with their own buildings, and they have nothing but what they have to offer. My thing has always been, send them to a program that's in a school district rather than send them to an alternative placement like that. So
the thing on BOCES, it depends on the child that's being.
That's
sent.
what I was going to say.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
my
talking
son
about,
is very hands-on, needs PT, OT, speech,
Right.
not verbal. And, there was only like 8 kids in a class, if that. In the end, there was never that many. And that was the fit. He was with peers similar to himself. There was some that were more advanced than him, but that was definitely more of a fit for him than something in a school district.
Right. It all depends on the child. It all depends on the child. Okay. Now, if your child is high, what I'm talking about is if you have a higher functioning child. So in any event, either way, you have to look at the curriculum that they're also going to be doing. Are they going to be doing Regents work? Is your child going on to college? If your child's going on to college, and it's more important to put them on the Regents track, right? And so if that child is going on to college, put them into a Regents program and make sure that the out of district program is offering it. Because if it's not, and your child wants to go to college, that might be a problem. So now if your child is, as Kim said, doesn't need a diploma, is going for a CDOS or a skills achievement, then go look at the programs, because I think that the focus then becomes an appropriate program. And you want to look at safety. You want to look at to see, my child's a runner. Will my child be running out the door? How much staff is there at this program? How,
Right, the ratio.
the ratio, will my child have, be watched over, if you notice that there's not that many staff, then I would be
Right.
asking towards a question.
In his
Yeah.
class, there was usually a 1-1 aid for every student. They had it on their
Yeah.
IEP. So there was at least an adult, with almost every student in the class, a teacher
Yes,
and an assistant teacher.
Right. Right. And you have to ask, the key thing here is you have to ask questions. You have to question everything. And people, come back. Go into special needs groups. Ask if any parent has ever had their child in this school or that school. I've found that a lot of parents have been more than willing to answer these questions. Ask, it's sometimes getting parental input is a good idea. But like Kim says, her child is nonverbal, so she wouldn't know. So she needs to make sure that everything is set up for him, so that she could feel comfortable going to work and leaving him there, because you're sending your kid there all day. So ask questions. Ask what happens, if there's a fire, what happens? How do the children exit? If there's, exactly how many people, because now your child's going to be outside. But as Kim said, everybody has a 1-to-1 aide. So that 1-to-1 aide would be the person responsible for staying with your child with that person while he's outside. There's lots of things to ask about, but definitely do your homework, do your research, and ask questions.
He also had OTPT speech, so there was also another staff member there with him doing that. So, yeah. Right.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think, part of it is sometimes parents don't know, and they get nervous and they get, frightened, like, what do I do? What are the next steps? Because sometimes when your child, especially if it's a new diagnosis, right?
Right.
Then, you're trying to navigate processing that, this is new, but then also, well, now it explains some of the things that were going on, and now what do we do about it? So, I think that, so I just think that they have to also give themselves grace, that they're not going to know everything all at once. Parents just aren't. They're not going to know everything all at once. But be open to asking questions. Be open to going to see different locations and programs for your child, and take notes. Make a note of things that you saw were really a good positive that you thought would fit for your child. Or make a note also, maybe you take a little piece of paper and you just divide it down by the middle, and these are the pros and these are the cons. So that later, you're not reliant upon your memory, but, you're documenting it so that when you go to compare the different programs, you can, physically have a sheet that says, well, this program had this, and this was such a great thing. I think would be a great fit for my child, my student. Or, this, I didn't really like this, or I knew that this particular scenario just isn't going to work. And when you write it down, because you think you're going to remember everything, but you're not. It's just you're just.
I kind of had like a checklist, like you're saying, to that same effect. Like, what are the key things? What are my important things? What are the things that would be nice to have? What are the things that they have at all the programs? Like safety was always the first thing. The 1-1 aid. Who's going to be watching him? He has trouble with stairs. He's nonverbal. He may have behaviors. Like all those things were like the important things. And then education, okay, it's important. But with my son, his safety was way more important than that level, because, he's not high functioning. So those were the key things on my list. Was safety was always. So like if they followed those checklists, then I went down the rest of the list. So
No, I like that. That's a good idea. The
And
checklist.
if your child is behavioral and is prone to throw meltdowns, you need to ask what happens. What
yeah,
exactly happens if my child has a meltdown? Well,
Yes.
did you know that a lot of these alternative outside placements that are BOCES have a rubber room? And guess
well,
what?
they have a behavior plan for each child. So my
Right,
son has had, they've changed over the years depending on the behavior.
right,
Um, he's been wrapped in mats. He's been taken to a mat floor if he was gonna bang his head.
right, right.
He's had some and all of the above in his action behavior plans over the
Right.
years. So
But the thing about it is that if your child gets put into a behavior room, I had a client that whose child got put into into one of those rubber rooms. Well, it turns out when she called New York State, a friend of ours was student teaching there, and she happened to notice that they put him into the rubber room. And it turns out that they can't do that without parental consent.
they're supposed to put them in a least restrictive environment. So and if it's not in their plan, the
Right,
exact hold that you use on an individual, if they're gonna pull
right,
hair, bring their
mhm,
head, hit
right,
you, there's like in that behavior plan, it's very written out
right.
exactly. What is
Well, it turns out,
the hold for the
it,
child? What do you do in a situation? What happens
right,
after 10 minutes? Do they go back to the classroom? Like it's really written
it's
out. But I
written
never
out,
heard
right,
of a rubber room there. I've never
right.
seen one. My son, it was makeshift
No,
for
no,
him.
it's not at that
So,
one. It's not at that one.
oh, okay,
Um,
here's this makeshift.
but this child was at a different one, and they put him in. It wasn't in his behavior plan. It wasn't in anything, and it wasn't. It was without parental consent. So one thing you might. That's why I tell parents, if your child's prone to having meltdowns, you need to ask them how they handle it, and you need to ask them if they have a rubber room, because you want to make sure that your child is, if you feel that it's going to create a huge traumatic, uh, trauma for your
Experience.
child,
Yeah.
right? You don't want them doing that, and you don't want them just doing that, putting them in without, you know,
Well, I would hope the
consent or
program
not.
did it like in an emergency basis, and then if a child had a behavior like that, I would think that it calls for a meeting with the parents or guardians
Yeah.
to go over what is the behavior plan. This is the behavior we've seen.
Well, I would think, right. Hmm.
Keep the child safe, and how do we go about this the next time? And then they write up the behavior plan, and the parent has to sign off on it. You have to sign off
Mhm.
on it.
Right.
So
You have to sign off on it.
a
Exactly. It's
meeting
not
on
done.
it. There's an actual
Right.
meeting on it.
Right. Exactly. There is an actual meeting on it, and that didn't happen for this parent. And so
Mm.
she called the state and she reported them, and it turned the child got taken in because then that program didn't want that child there anymore because the mother had called the state on them. So the school district took them out, and um, they found another program for them. But in any event, I think that parents have to be aware of what to ask, when they go to these out of district placements, the alternative placements. There's also one thing you have, as I started to say, the packets get sent out. You go to visit. The first one is usually a BOCES program. Even though you may not want to go, you have to go because it's a give and take situation. You can tell your districts, I want packets sent to this school district. I heard they have a program there, and they have to send it. But the school district has the right to send out packets to these placements. You do have to go visit. It's kind of a give and take. They'll send it out to places you want to go send your child, but you also have to go visit where they send out packets. So you go, you visit, and you look around. You might just find you like some of these programs. You might find that you don't. But if you don't, 24 hours, you have 24 hours to tell them no. All right. In writing. So send them an email. And then, you continue looking, and then you can go visit the programs that you want to look at if they respond. But, like I said, do this earlier because placements will fill up,
Yes.
and then you end up without a program, and you're going to have to, send them to a BOCES program or send them somewhere else. But definitely, get it done earlier, as early as you can. I mean, sometimes it's not possible, but sometimes it is.
So is there a recommended lead time for a placement?
Well, CSE meetings don't start usually until January. So I try to say that by April, it's maybe 30% chance of getting in.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you definitely don't want to wait until June.
Meetings used to wait until that late back in the day. They never
Yeah.
started
Yeah.
as early as
Oh, yeah.
January. They didn't
if
do
you're-
that like April, like May when we had our meetings.
But
in the
yours was
past.
already in a program that you were planning on bringing them back to, correct?
Yeah, but I mean, even the meetings in general, all of them were about that same time. So they
Yeah.
just start them a lot earlier now.
Yeah. Well, I know that in school districts they start in January, but if you're in a district and you feel that it's not the right fit and next year you want your child to go to an out of district program, then request that as early as you can, because there's a difference between a child already attending the school, because the preference will go to the child that's already attending the school, as opposed to a child that is just coming into the school.
Yeah.
So, but if you're looking to get the child into another program, then start as early as you can. Get on out there early. If your child wants to attend the CSE meeting, definitely attend. It's a good experience, as Felicia said. But if he doesn't want to, they're not ready. They're not ready. When they're ready, they will go. But if not, then, if they want to go, then absolutely, it'll be a great experience for them, and it teaches them a lot. But if they're not ready, then don't force them to.
Yeah. Yeah. We'd like to thank Altis for allowing us to use this platform to share our thoughts and our opinions.
And we want to remind everybody that we are mothers. We're not professionals. We're sharing our experiences so that we can help you with our autism child.
Watch us on social media. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe.
Hi, it's Teresa. If you like our show, click on our logo and follow our channel. Like our videos, share them with others, and most of all, leave us comments. We want to hear what you have to say.